Well, hello, and welcome to another Tyrrell's Classic Workshop. We're doing a catch-up, or a catch-up, or a ketchup, whatever you want to call it. It's become known as a ketchup here. And we're almost inevitably with Craig, who's been skulking away in the corner of the workshop again, but very productively, may I say.
Yeah.
And we're looking at steering wheels this time round, because we've got the Jensen FF here that has been sort of trundling along, and this is, you've worked your magic on the new steering wheel, the new old steering wheel, because they had two or three specific designs, which are very difficult to get hold of, but we have managed to get hold of one, and this is off an Interceptor 3, and I mean it's a very flimsy arrangement. This actually, I mean, if they didn't have power steering, working power steering, it would break in no time, that wheel. It's got this bit of aluminium material here, which is about 5 millimeters thick, and then it's joined at the ends there. But I mean, there's nothing really. That's just a crash pad. It's not the prettiest steering wheel in the world, really. But you're now working your magic on this, and this is out of a Miura that we've got in for restoration.
Yeah, where the spokes hit the sort of perimeter of the steering wheel, it had come loose. Well, it had broke on two occasions, sort of there, and where is it there? So I had to untrim the leather, and then take these sections of foam out, and then James had to weld it, and then we had to put the foam back in, and then we're going to redress the foam with this rubberized foam to give it a good, like a skin, so it'll look like that.
Smooth out.
Yes, yeah, well, yeah, exactly, yeah, because it's like a lunar landscape at the moment.
But what is this high density foam? Is it?
Yeah, but you know, you can see it's lasted, yeah.
Yeah. Considering it's what, 50
yes,
50
exactly.
years old.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's in really good nick, and then it's hand sewing all the way on this, because even there's a seam that runs there, which is at that point there, and I would have thought that would have been sewn up with the aid of a seam on the sewing machine, but it isn't. It's two pieces of leather butted up to each other and then hand sewn together, which makes it a little bit difficult. More difficult.
And this is obviously something Bertone did just because they could.
Well, yeah. This is more elaborate than other Miura hand steering wheels.
Is it really?
It's got these. Yeah, it's got these bits. You can see other Miura steering wheels. This piece is incorporated into the whole part.
Yes.
So.
I wondered who'd spot that first. I knew already.
So that's hand sewn onto that as well.
Right.
And there's two parallel lines. The stitch is two parallel lines down the inside there, where the leather butts up against it. I thought it was going to be that stitch, because obviously this is, you know, like you were saying, 50 years old. So it was hard to establish what stitch was used.
Right.
I thought it was going to be that one, the cross stitch, because this one crops up in Miuras and Espadas, but no, it's just, like I said, it's just two parallel lines all the way down the centre.
But this is original, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
So they've actually changed the way they've made them then?
Yes, yeah.
Interesting. And I have no idea why it has this peculiar cutout. I mean, this is actually two pieces.
Yeah,
I have no idea. I mean, all that would serve to do is weaken the steering wheel potentially.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sure there's somebody in Italy who has or did have an extremely gripping explanation for that. And you're going to work your magic with this beautiful black. That's lovely leather.
Yeah, so that's going to be the new leather on top, because we couldn't have reused that anyway. As soon as you go in. Yeah, so
I have never. There are plenty of people who do it, I'm sure, or enough people, but I've never come across somebody who can sew a steering wheel cover on successfully. So once again, your skills are off the scale, really. You know, it really is. I mean, that is a job of work to redo that, and we'll obviously see that in a later video. You've got your sewing machines here. What is it? 2 of them?
Yes, yeah.
A fleet of sewing machines. Not in this video, but at some stage we're going to see you actually in action.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Armed and dangerous. But yeah, that is super interesting, and you've just redone the Jansen FF.
Yeah, obviously we had to source the original steering wheel for that, and the one that we did get, it was pretty good, but there was elements that had cut,
Yes.
the sewing had come away, so I had to unpick that area and then go in again with the same stitch. Yeah, it looks good.
Good. Right. Well, thank you very much, Craig. We'll move on to our next little item of interest and leave you in peace to carry on with your work.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Well, Corey's been grappling with a mid-1960s Ferrari. This is a car that's now well known to us. We rebuilt the engine a while back. And the heating and ventilating system would put a sketch by Heath Robinson to shame, really, wouldn't it?
It would, yes.
It's ever so interesting, is that the word?
Yes.
And it's comprised of lots of these boxes which have a habit of going rusty and are utterly irreplaceable. In extreme cases, we can fabricate new ones, but fortunately we've got away with it. But without starting to use words that we can't use, before Google throws its algorithm into a dicky fit, what sort of a job is this?
On the far side over there, it's not too bad. You can access these things quite easily, but on this driver's side, you've got 2 brake servos in the way that shroud a lot of the access to the matrix that's tucked in there.
There's one of them.
And there's one of them here as well.
Here's one we removed earlier.
One of 2 that both sit just in that corner there.
They're actually by brake servo standards of the era, that is a surprisingly small unit. They're normally much bigger than that.
Yes, it is. I suppose with the 2 together, they don't occupy much space. But you can also get access through the behind the wheel arch liner on both sides, and you can get to a lot of the hosing and the cabling behind there too. So.
Okay, so it's all concentrated in this area under here, basically, and you got separate heaters for and controls for left and right sides of the car.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah,
which was almost unheard of in the 1960s, and that's a piece of. Are we going to? I mean, are we going to reuse that?
I think there's life in that yet. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I thought so. Yes. And we've got a couple of other interesting exhibits here. You said this was stuck, didn't you?
Yeah. When I got to a lot of the boxes. Although you could undo and unwind the clips that hold them on, you couldn't pull the piping off the sleeves. So unfortunately, to get them off, you've sort of got to sacrifice them.
Yes.
And then once the unit is out, take the rest of it off. They've been on there since the car was new.
I mean, we're going to have to fit new ones.
We're going to have to fit new ones, unfortunately.
Really, honestly, standards.
Slipping.
Yes. And this is a piece of which also is almost at its sell-by date, I would say.
It's close.
But I mean, it's all, as I say, it's all happening under there, isn't it? So you know, you've got. Oops, I dropped that rather badly there. Oh dear, and that bit. But so the radiator sits in there, tiny radiator.
That's it.
Then how does it sort of go together loosely?
Well, at the front end, sort of down here, you've got the electric motor.
Right.
With this sleeve that sits on top.
Yeah.
And then that very large sort of aluminium tube that's down there would then come off this sleeve here and onto the matrix housing. And then from there, you'll have a cable that runs to the interior where the driver can control a flap that opens and controls the airflow between the matrix or not, as it were. And it's this unit here that bolts onto the back of here when the matrix is in place, and then you've got your control on here for the cable.
Spring loaded.
Spring loaded, and I've had to replace all of, I don't know if it's easy to see, but all of the foam lining in there.
Right.
Because it was all broken down.
Yeah. Okay, so, and that fits on there.
That fits on there, and then opens and closes the sort of airways to the heaters.
So ideally, driver and passenger could have either hot or cold air independently, or boosted in, because they've even got separate heater fans.
Yes, each side.
Gosh, be still my beating heart with all this trickery. So this was the Ferrari 250 GT Coupe, which we've got 3 of in here at the moment. That was Enzo Ferrari's first production car, but a few years later, that came out in 1958. This is 1964, so it's by some extremely stunning mathematics 6 years later. He'd really gone for, he'd started to make this a proper luxury car. You know, it wasn't just buy the engine and you get the rest for free. But I mean, this is, it's all just, so it's spent 60 years effectively quietly rotting away underneath there.
Yeah, I mean, although it's shielded by the wheel arch liner, inevitably you get a lot of road grime finding its way up there, and the state of these when they came out were very, very poor. So I've had to blast them back to clean metal, check that what's left is okay, which it is, and then start to reassemble.
Fantastic. Well, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
In fact, John Lennon had one of these. This is a Series 1 330 GT 2+2, and I can't remember how many they made, but it wasn't very many. John Lennon had one, and Enzo Ferrari, I think, had one as his transport as well. So we're in rarefied air here.
We are.
Yes. So thanks very much, Corey. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Ian.
It's amazing to think that all this stuff, I mean, you've got bits of pipe here, haven't you? Different diameters.
Yeah.
That's one.
That'll be replacing the very large stuff off this sleeve here. And forgive me, just grab this.
So we've got different diameters
for
other different things.
Yeah, different sizes for different inlets and outlets. They all vary a little bit. So
what a bit of kit, really. And this is the sort of thing that's generally forgotten about. When you service your 330 GT 2+2, you generally don't start delving into heating and ventilation infrastructure.
No.
But yeah, it's going to be better than it's been for a very long time, this. So yeah, great job.
Thank you.
Well, one of the other cars that has arrived is this Miura, this Lamborghini Miura. And this is probably the best known Miura in the UK. It belongs to the JHW collection, Jane and Spike, two very, very dear friends and two extremely knowledgeable petrol heads. And this is one of the cars in their collection. And what we're going to do, it's in for, we've done various tests. They feared the worst, and unfortunately we've confirmed it. It does need an engine rebuild. So what we're going to do is a mini-series, a bit like we did that started the channel with Harry's Espada. We're going to look at this as it's actually being worked on and stripped down and rebuilt and put back together and reinstalled. So that's a mini-series coming up. You can see this is a very used and driven car, and okay, it's in for an engine rebuild, but it's done a lot of miles and a lot of kilometers. This is, I would say, by a country mile, the most driven Miura in Britain. Possibly the world, actually. So yeah, this is going to be a really interesting project. As I say, we're going to get up close and personal with, it's quite a tricky engine to remove and replace this because of the framework surrounding it. It's a bit of a shoehorn job. So yeah, that's going to be something exciting that's coming up shortly. But thanks very much for watching this catch-up, and thank you for subscribing, and we'll be back with something else very soon.